Nobody knew how old the clock was. It stood in the corner of the living room like it had always been there, tall and dark, carved from wood so old it had turned almost black. The face was cracked down the middle. The hands never moved. It hadn't ticked in years, maybe decades. Nobody in the family could remember a time when it actually worked, but nobody touched it either. That was the rule. An unspoken one, the kind that gets passed down without explanation, the kind kids eventually stop questioning. You don't touch the clock. You walk past it. You look away from it. You definitely don't put your hands on it. Marcus was 12 when he first broke the rule. It was an accident. He was running through the living room, chasing the dog, and he caught the side of the clock with his shoulder. Just a graze, barely even contact. But the moment his skin touched the wood, the clock made a sound. Not a tick, more like a deep groan, something mechanical waking up after a long sleep. The hands moved. Both of them, spinning backward fast. They stopped after a full rotation, 1 hour back. Marcus looked down at his phone. It said 3:47 p.m. His phone had said 4:47 p.m. 30 seconds ago. He told himself he imagined it. He walked away and didn't think about it again for 6 years. He came back to the house after his grandmother died. She'd lived alone there for 11 years, ever since his grandfather passed. The place smelled like old wood and dried flowers. The clock was still in the corner, still cracked, still dark. His mother started going through his grandmother's things. Uncle Dave showed up to help. Marcus sat in the living room and kept glancing at the clock. Dave walked past it, carrying a box of dishes, and his elbow knocked the side of the clock. The groan, again. The hands, spinning backward. 1 full hour. Dave didn't notice. He kept walking toward the kitchen. But Marcus noticed something else. There was a cat on the windowsill, some stray his grandmother had been feeding. The second the clock's hands stopped, the cat made a sound he'd never heard a cat make before. Not a meow, more like a scream. Then it dropped off the windowsill and hit the floor and didn't move. Marcus walked over slowly. The cat was dead, eyes open, legs stiff like it had been dead for hours, not seconds. His uncle came back. "What happened to the cat?" "It just fell," Marcus said. Dave shrugged and went back to packing. Marcus looked at the clock. He started paying attention after that. On the second day, his mother touched it. She was dusting shelves and put her hand flat against the side of the clock to steady herself on a step stool. Full palm contact. Several seconds. The groan was louder this time. The hands spun back hard. 1 hour. His mother stepped down and said she felt dizzy. She went to sit down. She looked pale. Her hands were shaking slightly. By evening, she seemed fine. But that night she told him she'd had the strangest feeling all day, like she'd already lived through everything before it happened. "Déjà vu," Marcus said. "No," she said slowly. "Stronger. Like I was in 2 places at once." She went to bed early. Marcus sat in the living room in the dark and looked at the clock. He thought about his grandmother living alone in this house for 11 years. How she'd gone from a sharp, energetic woman to someone frail and confused in what felt like only a few years. Doctors said it was just age. Marcus thought about how many times she might have accidentally bumped that clock, reached past it, walked too close in the dark, an hour taken each time. Not time rewinding for the world, just for the person who touched it. Something inside them wearing out faster than it should. The cat had died instantly. Small body, not much life to give. A human had more to offer, so it took longer. But the cost was the same. It was eating them. On the 3rd day, Marcus decided to test it. He knew it was stupid. But he had to understand it. He put 1 finger on the wood. Just 1 finger. Just for a second. The groan. The hands. 1 hour backward. And he felt it this time, because he was paying attention. It moved through him like cold water poured into his chest. A pulling sensation. Something being drawn out. He yanked his hand back and stood there gasping. His phone showed 2:14 p.m. It had shown 3:14 p.m. He sat down on the floor and put his head between his knees. His heart hammered. His hands felt strange, like they didn't quite belong to him. He felt old, not tired. Old. Something in his joints that wasn't there before. a weight behind his eyes. He got up and found a thick sheet and covered the clock completely. He pushed an armchair against it so nobody could walk too close without meaning to. His mother came in. "What did you do that for?" "It was bothering me," he said. "Just leave it." That night, Marcus woke up at 2 a.m. No bad dream, no noise. He just opened his eyes and was completely awake, the way you get when something is wrong without being able to name it. He walked to the living room. The sheet was on the floor. The armchair was back in its original spot. The clock was uncovered. He stood in the doorway and looked at it. The room was dark, but the clock was somehow darker, a shape that absorbed whatever little light there was. The crack across the face looked wider than before. The clock was ticking, slowly, steadily. The hands were moving, but not forward. Both hands creeping backward, 1 minute at a time. He didn't go closer. "What do you want?" he said out loud. The ticking stopped. The hands stopped. The room went completely silent. Then, from somewhere deep inside the wood, he heard something. His grandmother's voice. Not words, just her voice, like a sound remembered from a dream. Her specific voice, the way she sounded when he was small and she would sing in the kitchen, it was coming from inside the clock. Marcus took one step forward without meaning to. He grabbed the doorframe and stopped himself. "No," he said. The ticking started again. He went back to bed and lay there with his eyes open until morning. He called a man named Pete who did antique removals, not a restoration guy, not a collector, someone who took old furniture away and got rid of it. Pete came the next afternoon with a helper. Marcus kept his mother out of the room while they worked. He stood in the doorway and watched. Pete's helper reached out to pull the sheet off the clock. "Don't touch it," Marcus said. "Wear gloves." The guy looked at him. "Gloves? Old varnish, chemicals, just wear them." They exchanged a look but put on work gloves. They wrapped the clock in moving blankets without touching the wood directly. They wheeled it out on a dolly. Pete came over with a receipt. "Nice piece, Victorian probably, worth something. Don't sell it." Marcus said, "Destroy it. Wear gloves the whole time. Burn it if you can." Pete looked at him for a long moment. "Something wrong with you? Will you do it?" $800. Fine. He paid cash and watched the van drive away. His mother came outside. "I heard you talking to those men. You paid them to destroy it?" "Yes." "Marcus, that clock was in our family for generations." "I know." She was quiet. Then she said, "She used to talk to it. Did you know that?" "When I was small, I'd come downstairs and grandmother would be standing next to it with her hand on the side, just talking. I thought she was losing her mind." She paused. "She stopped after Granddad died. Never went near it again after that." Marcus looked at her. She'd known. His grandmother had known the whole time. She'd understood what it was costing her, and she'd stepped back. But she hadn't gotten rid of it. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe there were voices in there she wasn't ready to let go. Her husband's, her mother's, generations of voices locked inside the wood, each one bought with stolen years. It was just an old clock. He said, "Time to let it go." 3 weeks later, Pete called him. His voice was flat. "Careful. The way people talk when they're trying not to sound scared. That clock," Pete said. "My guy burned it like you asked. Took a long time to catch, but it burned. Good." He said while it was burning, he heard something coming out of it. Voices. Marcus didn't say anything. "He's not doing great," Pete said. "Just wanted you to know what you gave us." "I'm sorry," Marcus said. He hung up and sat in his apartment and stared at the corner of his living room. Just a lamp, a small table, a lot of empty space. He thought about the groan the clock made when he touched it, the hands spinning back, the cold water feeling in his chest, the age behind his eyes. He wondered how many hours had been taken from him. The accidental touch at 12, the deliberate one 3 weeks ago, 2 hours total. Maybe that was nothing. Maybe that was everything. He had no way to know. He just knew that some things that look old are old for a reason. Some things nobody touches, nobody should touch. And some rules don't come with explanations, because the explanation is worse than the rule. You don't touch the clock. You never touch the clock. Before you go, think about your own home. Is there something old in it that nobody touches? Something everyone just walks past without saying why? Drop it in the comments. And subscribe, because next week's story might be even closer to home.